Today is a very special day. As you see, my husband is nowhere to be found. That's because today is going to be me in the kitchen. Welcome to Elizabeth in the kitchen. And today I'm going to make a special recipe for you guys that is very famous. It's an international snack, my homemade chocolate chip cookies. So I have everything laid out here, proportioned, ready to go. I'm really excited to share this recipe with you guys because it's delicious, it's easy to make. Once you make these cookies, you literally won't want store-bought cookies, and it's so simple. Like, it's so easy. My first time making it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take forever. But literally, like, it'll take you probably 15 minutes, and then they take some time to bake in the oven, obviously, but like prep time, super easy and simple, easy cleanup, and they're better for you. When they're homemade, they're better for you, right? Okay, so 9 ingredients. Very, very easy, very simple. So what we have out here, pre-portioned, ready to go, is 2 eggs, a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of sugar. I have about a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, and 2 cups of chocolate chips, 1 cup of softened butter, and I'll put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 2 cups of flour. Mix it all together in a mixer. You can do it in a standalone automatic mixer, or you can do it in a hand mixer. Obviously, my first time doing it, I did it in a hand mixer because I didn't have one of these fantastic things. So you mix it together, and it's best for quality cookies to really let them sit in the oven, sit in the refrigerator for like, I don't know, 20 minutes at least, but the more the better, like maybe an hour if you have the time, but if not and you just can't wait, you can bake them right away. But the more that the dough really sits, they become a little bit harder, and so they stick together better when you're putting them on the pan. And anyway, all right, so real quick, for the chocolate chips, you can really use any kind of chocolate chips that you like. If you're a dark chocolate person, use dark chocolate. You'll feel a little bit better about eating a chocolate chip cookie because it's slightly better. So you can do dark chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate chips. You do unsweetened chocolate chips, but make sure you throw in a little bit of sweet chocolate chips because the unsweetened chocolate chips will tend to make the cookies a little bit bitter. So I don't recommend that. I would just do milk chocolate, semi-sweet, or dark chocolate. And then the butter is key to be softened. It has to be softened. It can't be super cold because if it's super cold, the cookies aren't as chewy. And also another ingredient that helps the cookies be super chewy is really good brown sugar. So make sure you don't go cheap on brown sugar. Get a high quality, good brown sugar, and make sure you portion it out precisely because that makes them very moist and chewy. And when you save them for later, this will probably make you, depending on the size of the cookies that you do, it'll probably make you like 24 cookies for this recipe. So I'm also gonna put the recipe down below, the measurements and everything that you need and the ingredients. If you guys wanna do substitutes, like say you don't wanna do flour, you can do almond flour. I've seen people do that before. You can throw in some oats. If you wanna do like some oatmeal or something, some little chunks of oatmeal, you can do that. You can use any kind of sugar that you want. I have raw organic cane sugar. But yeah, and if you want to do almond extract instead of vanilla, you can do that too. So you can really kind of make this around how you want it to be, just as long as you have the base, some sort of flour, the chocolate chips, and sugar, and then baking soda, obviously, because that has to help them rise. So I'm gonna mix all the ingredients together and let's get started. Butter and then the brown sugar. Mix that together. Make it real nice and creamy. So I'm just gonna let that mix for, usually takes like 30 seconds, I don't know, sometimes. Okay, so that is nice and cream. So next thing is gonna be your eggs. Make sure that you, let me put it this way so you can see it. Make sure that you guys break these into a bowl just so you don't get any shells in there because they're really hard to get out of, so. That's it for the wet ingredients. Now we're going to add the dry ingredients. And you guys can mix it together if you want. So I have the baking soda and the salt. But honestly, like, you don't have to do this because obviously it's going into a mixer, so it's gonna mix itself. So there is the dry ingredients with the salt, baking soda, and the sugar. And then can't forget the vanilla extract. That makes everything just kind of flavor pop. We'll do 4 of those because this is half a teaspoon and we need 2 teaspoons. Right. I think I put a little extra, but that's okay because vanilla makes things taste delish. Mix that together, and then after this is gonna come the flour. Together until it looks like that. And then we're gonna take out 2 cups of flour. Now this is unbleached organic flour. You can really use whatever kind of flour you prefer. But almond flour is delish too, if you want to cut back on the carbs. So there's 2. Good to kind of do it slow too, because you don't want the flour to fly up in your face. Slowly increase the levels. Also too, if you want to slowly add the flour in, just to make sure it all evenly mixes, you can do that. But I, anyway, just go in and I scrape the sides to make sure it's evenly mixed, so I just throw everything in there. But you cook how you want, bake. All right, that looks good. Last but not least is the chocolate chips. Yum. And for the chocolate chips, if you want a more fudgy cookie, you can add a little bit more. And there it is. There is our delicious chocolate chip cookie dough from scratch. Let's get it in the oven. All right, so now that we have that made, get our pan. You can use any size pan depending on how many cookies you're doing at a time. I like a non-stick pan, but if you don't have a non-stick pan on hand, make sure you use parchment paper. I've even done this before as my own mistake, but I've seen people put aluminum foil down and put the cookies on there and then put it in the oven, and that just creates the cookies to become flat. So you don't want to do that unless you like flat cookies. Definitely do that. I don't mind flat, crumbly cookies sometimes if I'm in the mood for it, but usually I like my cookies fluff and chewy. So parchment paper or a non-stick cooking pan. I have the oven preheated at 350 degrees. We're gonna bake these for about 10 to 13 minutes, depending on how good your oven is. Could be different. But I would just watch them. You can kind of see when they're done. You can totally like go in with your hand on these if you want. Or if you're like a germaphobe like me, you can just scoop it out. Scoops. You can do them as big or as little as you want. So I'm gonna get this all panned up here, and then we're gonna pop them in the oven, and I will show you guys the result. like a week. You can freeze cookie dough too if you want to freeze cookie dough. But I don't like to let it sit longer in the fridge for then like a week because obviously there's eggs in there and you know, eggs eventually go bad. So just put it in like a normal little, you put it in a Ziploc baggie, or I just put it in like Tupperware, a little Tupperware container, and just put it in the back of the fridge, make sure it's as cold as possible. And you can have cookies every night, cookie dough every night if you want. All right, so let's get these babies in the oven. Preheated at 350 degrees. Middle wrap, preferably. And that's gonna go in there for 10 to 13 minutes. All right, our cookies are done out of the oven. They look amazing. I usually let them sit for about a couple minutes before I plate them, so let's let them sit for a minute. I'm gonna plate them up, and my husband won't be able to resist. Watch, I guarantee you he'll walk by and take one. Voila! Here they are. Oh, they look so delicious and amazing. Okay, so we like ours to be a little bit on the browner side because they have more of like a bite and a chew to it. A little crunch also. But if you like them a little bit lighter, just take them out of the oven like maybe a minute or two prior. So instead of 10 to 13 minutes, do it more on like the 10-minute side if you like them to be a little bit lighter. All right guys, so there you go. My famous chocolate chip cookie recipe. It's so easy to make. I'll put the recipe down below. Stay tuned for next week's video. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. What did I tell you? I told you it was going to happen. You can't resist. The whole house is just like the aroma is in the entire house, right? You want one?
Yep.
I can't resist. Let's try.
Cheers. Cheers.
Ooh, look how it just like
Good.
breaks apart.
Good.
Bye guys.
Bye.